Here we go. Would encourage you to register to watch the new Breakpoint series that we're running. Um, the seven, no, the 8 episodes that you see in this year, those are all ones where I've been the host. And the next one coming up in June is a startup called Patient Notes. And that is a super, super fun episode. And they're talking about how they built their startup. Well, actually, they built it on OpenAI, but how they moved it to Azure OpenAI for the security, the scalability, the privacy, the compliance, governance, and the support. So it's a really good one if you're thinking of building a startup and why you might not want to build it on free tools. And we're already planning next season, and I already have some really great speakers lined up. But there are some great episodes in there. I particularly recommend the GitHub ones by Mish Mannering and April, who are just really wonderful and exciting and glorious speakers. Okay, let's go real quick. So for certifications this year, I'm really encouraging you to do the applied skills pathways because the applied skills, now Hella just said that she's studying for certifications. The certifications are wonderful. They're really good. They prove that you have the knowledge that you need in order to work in an enterprise world using Microsoft and beyond because they go wider than that. And that's excellent. You should definitely get those. But we're going to focus on working towards applied skills this year because the applied skills show you how to use the tools and they certify you for using the tools. You can do the applied skills for free. So the exam is a lab assessment that is online. It's unproctored, open book. There is a limited time period of 2 hours, but you can keep extending that if you need more time. It's really cool. There are labs in the learning pathway which help you prepare for that, but some of them are really hard and some of them are easier, but that might just be that some of them I find more enjoyable than other ones, and so it's easier for me to do. Although the generative AI one has a lot of code in it, which I find it very hard to focus on when I'm stressed. So the time period and doing the code makes it hard. I haven't got that one yet, is basically what I'm saying. But they are really cool. You get a certificate. If you fail the assessment, you can try again 72 hours later for free. So it's like a really, really good thing. So that's what we are talking about this year. We will help you to build on Azure and we will help you to connect with people. And you can see the bunch of people that we have in the call with us are all Microsoft people who are, happy to talk to you, answer your questions and all of that. So those are all the applied skills. They are literally adding more and more as we, every day, which means, you should have a little patience because sometimes the labs crash or because too many people are trying to do it or because it's a new thing, maybe it's not working that well. So just keep going, keep trying it. And, if they see a lot of people are taking them and not getting through, they will, redo them. They will make them better. So you doing it will be part of the process that makes these better. But some of them have been there a while and are good. That's the one that I got real easily without any studying for because I have been like doing stuff on that for a while. You can also find help on my YouTube channel. I have done all of the applied skills for the generative AI lab on there because the labs for that pathway, you do need to have access to Azure OpenAI, and as students, you might not have it. So therefore, I did all of those labs so you can see them. The exam, you don't need to have that access. They give you a dummy ID and dummy access, so no need to worry for the exam. Also, there are like a bunch of training courses where you can watch a Microsoft certified instructor taking you through how to do that generative exam. And those are really, really good. And she shows those labs as well. GitHub certifications, those are a new thing that came out a couple of months ago, and they're really, really good. If you watch from the Microsoft Learn Student Hub, you will often find out, discounts, opportunities to get free vouchers, stuff like that. We do have we do have in-person meetups and events, which we encourage you to come to. I'm not sure we probably won't have one in every quarter before end of year, but I will because we're already in June. But actually, I might try and hold another one in Perth this month, maybe. Technical workshops also on my YouTube channel. So we have a technical workshop after this for Power Platform, and the recordings for that go on the YouTube channel as well. Do sign up to be a Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador if you are still a student, because that used to be a closed program and only 30% of people could get through. Now they will let you all in if you apply, and they will help you level up so that you can become a leader amongst your peers. They will teach you stuff. They will give you free certification vouchers. They will train you for things, and that's the global program. So the difference between that and us is that they are part of the global program, and we are trying to serve you regionally. But definitely join both. Get all the benefits you can. And on the Student Hub, if you're a student, a full-time student, you can still get like a bunch of things for free, like Azure for Students, which is like $100 free cloud. In that GitHub Student Developer Pack, you get like a load of free software benefits, which will last a little bit longer after you graduate, and you can find out about different careers, and there's always all sorts of things on there that's really fun and interesting. The YouTube recordings for these calls are also on the channel, hopefully. So follow me and subscribe, join these Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. And now I will let Musy take over from me.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. I'll just share my screen. Okay, perfect. Can everybody see that? Okay, perfect. All right, so as some of you guys know, today's topic is around presentation skills, and I'll just go straight into what we're actually covering when we're talking about presentation skills. So there's 4 key things we're going to cover in this presentation. So number 1 is why it actually matters. Number 2 is knowing your audience and objective. Number 3 being storytelling, and number 4 some soft skills to level up your presentations. And when I'm going through this as well, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. For each one, it's typically just why it matters and then how to do it. So first into why presentations matter and why they're actually pretty important for you guys. 3 key areas or buckets. So number 1 being university. Some of you in university or in some type of student role. So at university, obviously a lot of group assignments. So you're presenting quite frequently. Interviews, they're another type of presentation. It might not seem like you're sitting there, in front of a PowerPoint, but in one way or another, you're presenting yourself. It can be pretty important for that. And then number 3 being career. So throughout your professional career, you're always going to be presenting. So there's 3 key buckets. Next, into actually knowing your objective and knowing your audience. I put these on the same slide because they're a bit of a dynamic duo when you're approaching it. So starting with knowing your objective for your presentation is kind of like your Northern Star. It's the key focus area for your whole presentation. And so how do you do that? And I'll kind of walk through, how I did that for this presentation as well. I defined the type of presentation. So for this one, I picked educate. If you wanted to do another one, maybe let's think of a topic like, convince the local council to give free parking to university students. You would do persuade, right? So you define the type of presentation that you're trying to do because they all differ. And then the purpose, right? So my goal is to educate students on presentations. So that is your objective. Really important when you're starting. It's just the core focus of the whole thing. And then that's very interlinked to actually knowing your audience as well. So knowing your audience, you can't pitch the same presentation to everyone because everyone's got their own interests and needs, and by tailoring it to the audience's interests and needs, you often get better engagement. And so one way to do that is, first identify your target audience. So, let's say you're pitching to a healthcare organization, right? Are you, presenting to the doctors? Are you presenting to the developers? Are you presenting to the management. Each one will differ in their own way. And then one tip I find useful is to kind of put yourselves in the shoes of the audience. Okay. And then telling a story through your presentation. This one I find to be really important because it provides really good clarity and structure to your presentation. And when the audience is listening to the presentation, they know where the points are going, and it's flows in between topics, and you can see how each one is connected. So, for example, when I was preparing this one, we started off with what are we going to be covering today, and then we go into why it actually matters, and then you start off with knowing your objective. That's like the start of it, knowing your objective and audience. That's in the planning stage. And then this telling a story through your presentation. This is like the kind of body of it. So having that flow is pretty important, and it really helps convey complex topics in a very digestible manner. If you're constantly bouncing through ideas, it's hard for the audience to kind of keep track. So having that flow, and you can kind of practice that, or you can get someone to listen to you, and then just see if the topics kind of flow into each other. And I'll go into the structure after this, which is pretty much, it's simple. It's common sense, just the intro, the body, and the conclusion. And I know it seems pretty clear, but sometimes we forget to do that. We get too caught up in the topics itself or in the intricacies of each one. And then also one other thing I like to use is some case studies, analogies, or anecdotes. They really help to kind of connect yourself with the audience. Moving on to actually structuring your presentation. Once again, it seems really simple, but it's just good to visualize that structure. So, obviously presentation, introduction. In the speech body, I like to have 3 key topics. I feel like that's the perfect number. And then also conclusion. Okay. And then just moving on to some of the soft skills. Soft skills, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before as well. And it's always good to just kind of brush up on these. It makes a big difference on improving audience engagement, and how well you communicate that key topic you are trying to communicate. Because you can do all this work in your group assignments, and you've put in all these long hours, you've done a great job, but if you struggle to present it, the audience won't really grasp what you've actually done here, won't get the full picture of what you've done. And so I have a few tips on how to do this. Some I like, obviously, on the communication side, so making sure your voice is clear, and also your tone and volume. So now let's imagine, like, if I was to whisper like this, it'd be pretty hard to kind of understand what I'm saying. But if you kind of speak at a clear tone, it's much easier for the audience to get what you're saying. And that means each point is coming across as it should. Body language, eye contact, very important as well. Just connecting with the audience, confident posture. And this one other tip that I really like is the box method. So this is something that I don't hear as often, but the box method is essentially, you imagine you have a box in front of your body, and that's where you kind of put your hands, like in this box. Because if any higher, it'll look a bit weird. Any lower, also a bit weird. But this box in the middle is basically the perfect spot to kind of, use your hands for when you're using body language. So just imagine there's a box here, and then just move that in there as you go. And then also active listening. And this is really good for Q&As. So, get asked a question, listen to that question, summarize it kind of back to the person, which is good because it also gives you a bit of time to think about it, kind of retrains yourself, and then answer it. Okay. And then a final tip I have, and this is really important for a lot of things, but particularly for presentations, which is deliberate practice. And I've put a quote there. I think this can kind of resonate with a lot of people in the fact that, a lot of people do struggle with presenting, and it can be a bit of a fear presenting in front of people. I know certainly myself, when I was younger, I used to kind of get a bit scared when presenting. And there's only one way to fix that, and that is through confronting your challenges. Because you can have some of the best content in the world, or some of the best storytelling, but if there's like a weakness, or challenge in your presentation, the best way to get better is not by keep practicing the stuff you're already good at, but it's actually practicing the stuff that, some of your weaknesses. That is what we call deliberate practice, and it's one of the best ways to improve. And so just to summarize that, number one, know your objective. So define the presentation type and purpose. Number two, know your audience. So, tailor that message to their interests and needs. Number three, storytelling, clear structure, make sure it flows, it connects, add anecdotes, add analogies. Number four, soft skills, communication, good vocal tone, volume, body language, box method, active listening for the Q&A. And then finally, bring it all together with deliberate practice. And that is how to improve your presentations. And I'll also open it up now to any Q&A. If you guys have any. Or maybe if anyone in the chat wants to put something that they kind of want to improve on, something that they kind of, realize maybe they kind of struggle with, and they're looking to improve.
I think probably when people first get started presenting, like the thing that is their biggest concern is that they're going to be super, super nervous and, stuttering and sweating and all of that. How do you overcome your fears?
Yeah, I become fears. And that was a big thing for me. Like I remember when I was starting in high school, I used to get very, very nervous. Like, I mean, I would practice it in my room and in front of the mirror, but once I got in front of a bunch of people, I used to get particularly nervous. And the one way to improve that was through that last point that I made. And that's kind of why I put it in. Sometimes it is just going to be challenging and there's no easy shortcut to it. But that deliberate practice of, say you do it, in front of a few friends or a small audience, and you face that challenge. You know it's going to be uncomfortable, but you do it and you do it again, again, and again. And slowly over time, you kind of find that it becomes a bit easier each time.
And there is one question in chat from Helen.
Yes, storytelling. No, it's a big one, and it can really make or break a presentation, having a clear structure. But it is pretty simple as well. It's good that you want to improve that. Just remember, just the intro, body, conclusion, and then kind of picture it as like a pathway. Like you're kind of on a pathway going somewhere, and you start off at the start, which is your intro. And then you kind of stop at, the topic one, you stop at topic two, stop at topic three, but it all kind of flows down that pathway. But no, it's great that you want to improve that.
Yeah, I think to have a clear logic and to understand audience, to really have them to follow, and also when doing the presentation, like how to do the PowerPoints, how it relate to your content, and they all matters. Yeah, and storytelling is like, I suppose I thought it was a story, but it ends up to be something like a structured. Yeah.
No, 100%. And you're spot on there. And one big thing about like having that logic as well is being simple and concise. When you're simple and concise, it's easier for you, especially to kind of gather your thoughts together because you know what the topics are. And if you keep them simple, you know the topics are and you know how they can flow in. When I present, I tend to repeat myself a lot, say the same thing in different ways. Yes, so being more concise. Yeah, so that would kind of build on just a bit of what I was saying there. But one thing that I think would be good, if you're struggling to be concise or you find yourself repeating, one way would be going on the whiteboard. I've done this myself, but I go on the whiteboard and I'll kind of like brainstorm or like kind of do a map of where you want to go on the presentation. So let's say we were doing this again, right? Number one, we're doing the intro, and then we're doing knowing your objective and your audience. And for that, you just want to have a few, what I like to have is a few, how do I just admit this person in? A few key dot points that lead what you're about to say. Because if you have a lot of text as well, often you will find yourself repeating or reading from the screen. So either one isn't too good. But I think good way, just visualize yourself kind of, going down a pathway or a map. Because sometimes you're just done with the topic, like there is nothing else to say, and it's time to move on to the next topic. Otherwise, you keep repeating. So knowing where you're standing in the presentation is a good thing to do.
I think that my advice around storytelling is you really need to find some way to link what you are teaching, what you are sharing to your own personal story. A lot of people don't want to get personal, don't want to share something about themselves. They're trying to keep it all professional and all of that, which is fine, but it's not interesting. People don't connect to it the same way as they connect when you let them see a little something of themselves. And I'm not saying you have to have your nervous breakdown on the stage and tell them about all the terrible things that happened to you in your childhood. What I'm saying is just don't be afraid to be real with your audience. Don't be afraid to let them see the real person that you are. And when you're like in your everyday life, like often, like a lot of things happen to you, a lot of funny little stories happen to you, and you learn these lessons. And if you don't keep a diary, you probably don't remember all of those things, how many things there are that are going on in your life that in the end up making you the person that you are today. And if you can like make a note of those little stories, you can often find ways to pop them in there. So the most popular story I tell is about how afraid I am to go to big networking events and big conferences where I don't know people there, and I'm afraid to approach strangers. And I talked about how I overcame that by, turning up a little bit early and standing on the side of the room and looking for someone that I know there, and then waiting till they're speaking to someone that I don't know. And then if I go over to them, they'll introduce me to that other person, and it'll kind of be like a soft intro. And that's like a really good life hack, a really good tip. It works, something that works for me. And I can say that I'm scared, I'm afraid to approach strangers. Is anyone else afraid? And, a lot of people will put their hands up. There aren't that many super extroverts in any room. What else? Oh, I have another story about how when I come into the office one morning, I saw Jason Byway standing there with his little baby in his arms, and the baby, he's trying to like rock the baby, and he's on a phone call to a customer, and he's frowning. So you can see the customer's giving him a tough time, and he's trying to hold the baby, and it's kind of dark, and like I turned the light on and took a picture of him and the baby on the phone underneath the Microsoft sign. And I shared saying, I think it's really good that if you need to bring your baby to work, or if you need to work from home with your baby, or, whatever you need to accommodate in your life, you can do that at Microsoft. This gives people insight into Microsoft life, Microsoft culture, which they love. It makes Jason look like a real person, and it has a baby in it, which everybody loves a baby. That was the most popular post I ever made. Jason never liked the post because he looks like he's struggling. And so later in the day, he made a post of himself with the baby smiling under the Microsoft sign. But the thing is, that post didn't do anywhere near as well, because people don't just want to see your happy Instagram filtered life. They want to see that you are struggling, but nevertheless you are surviving. Nevertheless, you are able to go forward and live your life, and you're making it work, and you're making it happen. So, having just opening your eyes to the things that are going on around you in your life, and making a note of those so you can use those in future presentations is my top tip, I guess. On the repeating yourself, I think you just need to, if you've got slides, instead of writing your whole speaker notes, if you just write like 3 points for each slide, it will kind of remind yourself to stay on topic. When you've done the 3 points, just move on to the next slide. I did hear James Whitaker. Where's my little book from James Whitaker? This book, the Storyteller's Spell Book by James Whitaker. James Whitaker is definitely one of the best speakers you will ever see in your life. If you ever get the opportunity, look him up online maybe and see if you can find him. He's like an old guy with like a white hair and white beard. You should be able to find some videos. Oh wait, there's a little picture. This is a really tiny book, and so you can buy it on Amazon, and it costs quite a bit of money. I think it's well worth it. You can see all of the like little tags that I've made because it's just like it's all gold. But one of the pieces of advice that James gave was before he goes on stage and he feels a lot of fear, he does like 10 press-ups because your body cannot tell the difference between fear and excitement. And it's just all adrenaline. And so he does 10 press-ups before he goes on stage so that his body thinks he's exercising and gives him that endorphin flush. But you can also tell your brain that as well. You can just say, this feeling that I'm feeling isn't fear, it's excitement. I can't wait till I get on stage. I can't wait till I'm presenting in front of this room of people. And you know, go with the feeling as opposed to trying to like stamp it down. Okay, well, yeah. Oh, look, see how they're joining now.
Yeah. Well, to everyone that has joined now, we finished the presentation, but the recording is going to be up there shortly as well, and you can go through that again.